It was just another evening when I first saw them, two white men walking down the path into our village. I could hardly believe my eyes. The stories we heard as children about people from distant lands flooded back, but this was different. The air crackled with an unsettling energy, and I felt my heart race with uncertainty. The village was still recovering from the serpent's attack. We were still wary, the fear of unseen threats lurking in the shadows. I was helping my mother prepare dinner when I heard the whispers. Strangers, foreigners, the word spread like wildfire. I hurried outside, pushing through the crowd. The villagers stood in clusters, eyes wide and suspicious. The white men wore long clothes, unlike anything we had seen. They carried strange objects that sparkled in the sunlight, and their skin was so pale it seemed to glow. As they approached, I felt a mix of curiosity and dread. What did they want? Were they here to help or to exploit our vulnerability? The memory of the serpent lingered, and I couldn't shake the feeling that more danger was on the horizon. One of the white men stepped forward, a tall figure with a confident demeanor. He introduced himself as Mr. Carter. His voice was deep and smooth, yet I sensed an underlying tension. "We come in peace," he said, gesturing to the other man, who remained quiet, watching us with keen eyes. "We've heard tales of your village and the troubles you faced. We want to help." The villagers exchanged wary glances. After everything we had endured, trust did not come easily. I felt a surge of anger at their arrogance, thinking they could simply walk in and offer help without knowing our pain. Yet, as Mr. Carter spoke, I noticed something. His sincerity. He talked of education, medicine, and a world beyond our village. The other man, whose name I learned was Mr. Thompson, stood silently, scribbling a notebook. Nina, who had been observing closely, stepped forward. "What do you want in return?" she asked, her voice steady. Mr. Carter smiled, though I could see the glint of something else in his eyes. "Only your cooperation. We believe that knowledge can help you defeat the darkness that threatens your home." Over the following days, the white men stayed in the village, setting up a small camp near the river. They began to share their knowledge with us, teaching about medicine and hygiene. I watched as they showed villagers how to clean wounds, how to prevent sickness. Their ideas were new and strange, but effective. The more I learned, the more I felt torn. Was this knowledge a gift or a means of control? The serpent had taught us to be cautious, but I could see hope flickering in the eyes of my fellow villagers. They were desperate for healing, for answers. I found myself drawn to Mr. Carter's teachings, and sometimes I would sit beside him, listening to his stories of far-off lands and wondrous inventions. He spoke of cities filled with lights, of people working together for a better future. It sounded beautiful yet foreign, like a dream I couldn't quite grasp. But every night, as I lay in bed, I could still hear the hissing in my mind, the reminder that danger was never far away. As the weeks passed, the villagers began to trust the white men. They accepted their help and were eager to learn. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. I started to follow Mr. Thompson when he left camp at night, drawn by a gut instinct that something wasn't right. One evening, I crept behind him as he walked into the woods. My heart raced as I watched him kneel by the river, pulling something from his bag, a small glass vial. I hid behind a tree, straining to hear. "Tonight we will begin," I heard him whisper to himself, a strange smile creeping across his face. "The village will serve our purpose." I felt cold dread wash over me. What purpose? What were they planning? The fear that had been dormant surged back stronger than ever. I had to warn the villagers. I rushed back to the village, heart pounding. I found a Nina and gathered the villagers. "Something is wrong. They're not here to help us." I saw Mr. Thompson. "He has plans that could harm us." The villagers murmured in confusion. They didn't want to believe me. Mr. Carter had been nothing but kind, and the knowledge they shared had already begun to change lives. But Nene raised her hand for silence. "Madu has always been our protector. If he says something is wrong, we must listen." That night, we confronted Mr. Carter and Mr. Thompson. The villagers surrounded their camp, eyes filled with fear and uncertainty. Mr. Carter stood tall, but there was a flicker of annoyance in his eyes. "What is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "Madu has seen you," Nina declared. "We know you are planning something. We will not be your pawns." Mr. Carter's expression hardened. "You misunderstand. We only wish to help, But if you choose to reject our knowledge, you are only inviting more darkness into your lives. In that moment, everything clicked into place. The knowledge they offered wasn't just about healing. It was a way to manipulate us, to weaken us from the inside. I felt anger boiling in my chest. "You want to control us, just like the serpent," I shouted. "You think you can come here and take advantage of our fears?" Mr. Thompson stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with something I couldn't place. "You are foolish to resist progress. Your traditions will lead to your downfall." Suddenly, the air felt charged. I realized they weren't just outsiders. They were agents of a different kind of evil, one that sought to consume our culture. I felt a surge of determination rise within me. "We will not let you take our home," I shouted, raising my voice to rally the villagers. "We have faced darkness before, and we will do it again." The villagers united, stepping forward as one, their expressions fierce. Mr. Carter and Mr. Thompson exchanged worried glances, realizing they had underestimated us. As the tension mounted, Mr. Thompson reached into his bag, pulling out the glass vial I had seen earlier. "You'll regret this," he hissed, but before he could unleash whatever was inside, I lunged forward, knocking it from his hands. The vial shattered against the ground, releasing a strange shimmering mist that rose into the air. I could see the panic in Mr. Carter's eyes as he understood the danger of what he had unleashed. The mist spiraled into the night, swirling around us like a storm. But instead of chaos, I felt a strange calm wash over me. It was as if the spirits of our ancestors were rising, protecting us from the impending doom. As the mist enveloped the camp, both men fell to their knees, defeated. The power of our unity, our culture, and the spirits that watched over us combined to drive them away. With a final scream, they vanished into the night, leaving only silence behind. We stood together, breathless but triumphant. The darkness that had threatened to consume us was vanquished once more. I could feel the strength of the village pulsating around me, reminding me that we were not alone. In the days that followed, we came together to rebuild, reaffirming our traditions and creating new ways to protect our home. We learned from the white men's teachings, but adapted them to fit our ways. We had found a balance, a way to merge knowledge without losing ourselves. As I stood on the riverbank, watching the sun rise over the village, I felt a sense of hope. We had faced the serpent and the men from beyond, and we had prevailed. The past had taught us well, and now we were ready to embrace whatever the future held. But as the wind whispered through the trees, I couldn't help but wonder if the shadows would return one day. Would we be ready when they did? The village began to heal after the confrontation with the white men, but the scars remained. We had fought for our home, and yet I could still feel a weight in the air. A reminder that danger was not just a creature lurking in the shadows, it was also the threat of manipulation and deceit, something I now understood all too well. Days turned into weeks, and life resumed its rhythm, but I remained vigilant. The villagers worked together, rebuilding what had been lost and reinforcing our traditions. And Nena often gathered us around the fire to share stories, reminding us of our strength and the importance of our heritage. But as I sat listening to her, I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. It was as if the village had entered a fragile peace, one that could shatter with a single misstep. One evening, as I walked home from the gathering, I noticed something strange. The usual sounds of the night, chirping crickets and rustling leaves, had faded. Instead, there was a stillness, a quiet that pressed down on me like a heavy blanket. I glanced toward the river and saw a flicker of movement. My heart raced. Had the serpent returned, or was it just my imagination? I stepped closer, peering through the shadows. That's when I saw her, Ataku, standing at the water's edge, her silhouette almost glowing under the moonlight. I froze, unsure if I should approach or turn back. The memory of our last encounter flooded my mind. Hadn't we banished her for good? Was she back to seek revenge? "Why are you here, Daku?" I called out, my voice shaking but firm. I could feel my heart thundering in my chest. She turned slowly, a smile playing on her lips. "Madu," she said, her voice sweet as honey but laced with a chill. "I've come to offer you a deal." "A deal?" I scoffed, stepping forward. "You think I'd trust you after what you did to our village?" Adaku laughed softly, the sound echoing eerily. "You misunderstand. I'm not here to harm you. I know things, secrets that can protect your village, secrets about the white men." At the mention of Mr. Carter and Mr. Thompson, a wave of anger washed over me. "What do you know?" "I know their true purpose," she said, her eyes narrowing. They are not simply here to help. They seek to take control of your land and your people. They will come again, and next time, they won't come in peace. I hesitated, torn between fear and curiosity. Could I trust her? But deep down, I knew I had to know more. What do you want in return? I asked cautiously. I want what I always wanted, acceptance, Adaku replied, stepping closer. If you invite me back, I can teach you the true ways to protect yourselves, to harness the power of the earth and spirits. The idea of accepting her back filled me with dread. But what if it was our only chance? We had faced darkness before, and we had won. Maybe this was another opportunity to gain strength. I need time to think, I finally said, stepping back, my mind racing. That night, I gathered the elders, including Ninena. I told them about my encounter with Adaku, leaving out the part about her offer for acceptance. They listened, their faces etched with concern. Ninstenwe spoke first. We cannot forget the pain she brought to our village. But if what she says about the white men is true, we must prepare ourselves. We have the truth stone, I reminded them. But if they return, we will need more than just that. The elders debated late into the night, weighing the risks of accepting Adaku's help against the threat posed by the white men. The atmosphere was heavy, filled with uncertainty. Finally, we reached a decision. I would meet with Adaku again, but only under the watchful eyes of the council. If she proved to be deceitful, we would not hesitate to banish her once more. The next evening, I returned to the river with the elders, feeling a mix of dread and determination. Adaku awaited us, her demeanor calm and collected. "You've come," she said, her smile disarming. "Are you ready to accept my help?" "We are willing to hear you out," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "But make no mistake, if you deceive us again, we will not hesitate to drive you away." She nodded, acknowledging the seriousness of our intent. "I appreciate your caution. Let me show you the true strength of your heritage." Adaku led us deeper into the woods, to a sacred grove that pulsed with energy. Ancient trees stood tall, their roots entwined like the arms of ancestors protecting the land. In the center was a circle of stones, covered in symbols that glowed faintly in the twilight. "Here you can connect with the spirits of your ancestors," she explained. "This is where you will find the strength to defend your village." Adaku instructed us to gather around the stones. "Close your eyes and listen to the whispers of the earth," she said. "Let the spirits guide you." I took a deep breath, feeling the cool earth beneath me. As I closed my eyes, I began to hear faint voices, murmuring ancient words. It was overwhelming, a blend of fear and power. Suddenly, I felt a surge of energy coursing through me, connecting me to the land, the spirits, and my ancestors. I opened my eyes, seeing Adaku watching intently. "Feel the power," she urged. "This is what you need to protect yourselves from those who wish to harm you." But as I felt the connection deepen, a flicker of doubt crept in. Was this truly power, or was it another form of control? As we completed the ritual, a low rumble echoed through the grove. The ground shook, and dark clouds gathered overhead. I sensed something was wrong. Adaku's expression shifted from calm to panic. "They're here! The white men are coming!" Before I could react, shadows spilled into the grove. Mr. Carter and Mr. Thompson, flanked by a group of men. They looked determined, their eyes scanning the area. "Foolish villagers," Mr. Carter sneered. "You think you can hide from us? We know your secrets now?" The villagers quickly formed a protective circle around me and the elders. "We are not afraid of you," I shouted, brandishing the truth stone. But Adaku stepped back, fear etched on her face. "They've come to take what they desire. You must stand firm." The tension escalated, both sides ready for conflict. Mr. Carter raised a hand, and his men brandished weapons. "You've wasted your time with her," he said, pointing at Adaku. "She will only lead you to ruin." As if on cue, Adaku raised her arms, and the wind howled around us, swirling with energy. "You underestimate the power of this land?" she shouted. The two forces clashed, darkness against the strength of the earth. I felt the energy from the ritual surge within me, filling me with resolve. Together, I shouted to the villagers, "We are stronger than any darkness." We stood united, channeling the energy from the grove, the truth stone glowing brighter than ever. It illuminated our surroundings, pushing back against the shadows. The battle raged on, but as the villagers united their strengths, something shifted. Adaku, now fully transformed, called upon the spirits of the land, and the energy surged, enveloping us all. With one final push, the light from the truth stone and the spirits burst forth, overwhelming the dark shadows. Mr. Carter and his men stumbled back, fear written across their faces. In that moment, we pushed the darkness away. The white men retreated, realizing they could not overcome the united spirit of our village. As the dust settled, I turned to Adaku, who was catching her breath. "You fought with us," I said, my voice filled with both gratitude and suspicion. "But can we trust you now?" She looked at me, her expression earnest. "I want to help you. I'm not your enemy, Madu. I only want to protect the land and its people." The villagers murmured among themselves, their expressions torn. Could we truly accept her back after everything? Ninina stepped forward, her voice steady. "Perhaps it is time we reconsider our views. We have learned that fear can blind us to possibilities. If Adaku truly wishes to stand with us, we must be willing to listen." In the days that followed, we forged a new alliance with Adaku. She began to teach us the deeper magic of the land, showing us how to protect our village from both physical and spiritual threats. Together, we practiced rituals that strengthened our bond with the earth, honing our skills to defend against future dangers. As we learned, the fear that had once gripped me began to dissipate. I realized that true strength lay in our unity, not just against external threats, but also in accepting help where it was offered, even from those we once feared. The village thrived once more, a blend of tradition and newfound wisdom. We learned to harness the power of both the earth and our own spirits, standing strong against whatever came our way. As I stood on the riverbank one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues, I felt a sense of peace. We had faced the serpent, the white men, and our own fears. And though darkness may return, I knew we would be ready. Together, we were not just survivors. We were a force of resilience bound by the land and our shared stories. The serpent had taught us caution, but it was the spirits of our ancestors and the strength of our community that would guide us forward.
If you found this interesting, please like and subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.